The event began at dawn, as early sunlight glinted on the high glass windows of Langford Automotive's corporate headquarters. A hush fell over the engineers and executives assembled near the plaza, where the McLaren GT stood, raised on a platform draped in black silk. Reporters and photographers gathered with professional lenses ready. Investors and media representatives held their devices poised. Inside the innovation lab, preparations were underway. Lead engineers exchanged worried looks. The ACU diagnostics had yielded error codes that implied serious issues, intermittent grounding faults, which, if ignored, might trigger a total engine lock. Eliza Kahn waited quietly behind a line of eager early hires. She had spent the night studying wiring diagrams, control module architecture, and sensor calibration procedures. She carried a small toolkit inside a discreet pouch at her belt, prepared in case she was given actual diagnostic responsibilities. She could still not be certain that she would have an opportunity to demonstrate her skill. In the lobby, Victor circulated, greeting key clients. The crowd parted politely. Some whispers followed. "She's only an intern. It is just window dressing. She will fail." When Langford called her name, she answered without hesitation. She knew the risk, yet she felt oddly calm. Warning lights were resolved. The dash glowed steady. Sensors reported normal temperature. Cooling fans spun quietly. He presented data showing how her solution had prevented costly downtime, warranty claims, and logistical delays. He emphasized the intangible value she added: trust, initiative, and humility within a company that had recently experienced internal disengagement. Part 2. Tension under the hood. She will overhaul the ECU diagnostic systems, train our teams, and mentor new hires. Victor responded firmly. Experience is not mere tenure. It is earned through action. Eliza opened the rear engine hatch and turned on a small inspection lamp. A pin dropped and the silence stretched taut. She scanned quickly. ECU connector loose, ground strap exhibiting green oxidation, a classic water intrusion problem. She slipped gloves on, fitted a spare gold-plated ground plug she carried and cleaned the contact surfaces with corrosion solvent. As she worked, a storm had drifted in overhead. Rain threatened. If the ground failed again, the ECU might reboot mid. Her team tested revised prototypes in simulated rain chambers and desert dust environments. The failure rate plummeted. She tightened the screw to specified torque, sealed the connector with industrial-grade dielectric grease, and gently tested continuity with a handheld meter. She introduced diagnostic drills, exercise cases that simulated rare faults for trainees to solve in controlled timeframes. All eyes followed her motions. She analyzed diagnostic logs from nearly all McLaren models produced in the past 2 years. She identified recurring faults due to moisture in ECU housing. She worked with product design to specify improved gasket seals and drainage channels in wiring harnesses. At an industry conference focused on electric vehicle safety, she presented a paper titled Grounding the Future: How a Trust Transfer Sparks Technical Resilience. This company is no longer defined by what we say, we stand for, but by who we enable to speak and act. The audience of international engineers and designers stood at the end. Victor raised the remote control handheld. Proceed. Eliza placed the key and turned it. The engine responded with a smooth rev. The crowd exhaled as one. Victor turned, broad smile unguarded, and said, "You have not only fixed the vehicle but lifted morale. Please step down." Universities invited her to speak on panels. Engineering student forums listed her as a role model for balancing ethics, skill, and compassion. She closed the hatch and gratefully accepted a nod from important engineers who had earlier avoided eye contact. A few approached later to shake her hand. She remained measured. Part 3. Internal promises within hours. Victor held a closed-door meeting in the boardroom with senior leadership. He concluded, "I would like to appoint her as lead diagnostics engineer." Heads nodded. A few senior engineers voiced concerns that she was too inexperienced. Over the following week, Victor's speech at the employee assembly resonated. He said, "We may have a lot of hierarchy in history. Today we witnessed what matters more than pedigree: He called Elisa forward. She stood before hundreds of people. Leading means trusting someone to act, not just to say the right words. Let this moment mark our shift. The applause echoed through the atrium. She covered her face briefly, overwhelmed but grounded. Part 4. Deep dive into systems. Over the next 6 months, Elisa focused on systems. She collaborated with materials engineers to source corrosion resistance. She authored technical documentation, developed video tutorials for technicians, and standardized teaching modules. She held weekly lab audits, reviewed data integrity logs, and listened to technician feedback from the floor. Her leadership style emphasized openness and reciprocal respect. Junior staff said she was exactly the mentor they wished they had. Many reported renewed engagement and dedication. Part 5. Personal growth and public recognition. Beyond her technical role, Elisa began speaking at public hearings on automotive reliability. Her keynote address reflected both humility and clarity. Greater than innovation thrives not when we protect egos, but when we trust initiative. Applause gave way to networking tables filled with executives seeking collaboration. Media outlets profiled her, asterisk from intern to lead. How a girl with a toolkit changed how Langford thinks. David Langford quietly funded her MBA studies, ensuring she could expand her management knowledge for future leadership positions. Mentorship beyond boundaries, asterisk, asterisk. Elisa never lost sight of her own origin. She launched the Connector Initiative, a mentoring program for students in underserved communities interested in technical careers. Each year, 17 students received internships and paid stipends. They learned soldering, diagnostic, logic, and teachers reported transformations. Students who once doubted their ability had built confidence to speak and to lead. She returned regularly to urban schools, hosting workshops, asterisk fix the smallest, change the system. She showed them how seemingly minor details, loose connectors, corroded grounds, overlooked sensor wires could cause larger failures. Then, she asked them to relate. What small acts in your world go unseen yet hold great importance? He said. Volunteers said she inspired not just interest in mechanics, but in dignity. It is named after one who listens, repairs, and builds across gap. The McLaren GT was again center stage, but this time behind glass, in the corporate museum. Employees toured the exhibit with curious interns. Part 7. The 5-year turning point. 5 years after the original incident, Langford Automotive convened another celebration. This was not just a fix. It was a doorway. Victor stood before a crowded ceremony of engineers, technicians, board members, and scholarship recipients. Today, we honor not a car, but the moment when we chose to hand trust to someone we underestimated. Langford Automotive embedded the motto, Dare, Trust, Connect. Recruitment slogans changed. She ensured field technicians had secure feedback channels and psychological safety to report even minor errors without fear. Human resources adopted a new assessment model. Candidates were evaluated on empathy, honesty, and response to real-world situations. Workplace satisfaction rose. Innovation indices climbed. The company posted record profits. True success, Elisa often reminded, was sustained impact. He gestured to Elisa. I present to you this glass trophy, the Connector Award. Let that remind us. Every person, every wire, every decision treated with care makes the difference between breakdown and breakthrough. Elisa stepped forward to receive it. She held the trophy with both hands, words not ready to find their place. Finally, she spoke. This award does not belong to me alone. It belongs to every person who saw something broken and chose to help, not because of position, but because of empathy. She turned and asked the CEO, would you allow the next recipient to come forward? Victor nodded. A former intern she mentored walked up, converted faults engineer, once shy. He said, I followed your example, learned to speak up, and now I train others. Part 8. Ever-growing ripples, serving as a reminder that technical brilliance requires listening, not just intelligence. Asterisk, courage builds ability. Together, they build future. She demonstrated wiring, ECU connectors, and housekeeping protocols for lab cleanliness. She served dinner alongside inventors, discussing ethics and empathy, and a community asterisk. It became required reading at several universities and training institutes, yet she also remembered something equally vital. Asterisk, how a single act of trust prompted an entire organization to listen and to change. In boardrooms and classrooms, the story of the McLaren fix was known. Beneath it read, asterisk, let any who see this know. Trust is the first connection. Eliza chaired a technical ethics committee that rewrote internal codes of conduct. The engineering staff retention rate improved. She refused media and she remained dedicated to quiet leadership. Part 9. Global symbol. Her story traveled internationally. Automotive associations invited her to conferences in Tokyo, Munich, and Detroit. Engineers at Formula One workshops listened, moved. At one major global auto summit, she spoke. Greater than this car taught us that connections at the heart of a system matter most. Audience members wrote notes backstage. She speaks for the unseen parts of industry. Soon after, an automotive museum displayed the McLaren GT with a plaque. Greater than asterisk fixed by a moment of trust. Nearby, a photograph showed LSAT 22 working on the ACU wiring, while executors observed. Epilogue. Infinite connector in everyday life, she remained grounded on the anniversary of the fix. She arranged for the local community volunteers and assorted school children to visit the corporate lab. One student asked, "You fixed a luxury car. Could it fix a family? Can trust fix despair?" Eliza knelt to his level and replied, "Trust is not magic, but when offered authentically, it can spark courage." Her father, Miguel Con, now retired, traveled from his former small town to attend these tours. He wore a proud smile. She remained forever grateful. When she wrote her autobiography asterisk, The Connector, how one girl's act connected a company, a car, and in quiet moments, she still looked back to that rooftop plaza where she first walked to the McLaren. She remembered feeling small in the face of expectation.